What's going on, guys? Dan from SSG bringing you another Edison format deck profile. This time I'm profiling the deck I elected to play at the RBET Orlando. Big first couple shout outs. Of course, shout out to Keegan from E3 as well as the Versus team for running an awesome event. Just really smooth sailing. One of the cleanest, most efficient events I've ever been a part of. Just awesome event. Shout out to my homie Nick B for making top 16. Ended up playing Value, went 7-0 and then 7-1 in Swiss, getting in the second seed. Unfortunately, knocked off in top 16. Shout out to everyone at the house that we rented down there in Florida. We all traveled well, and there were actually more people from the New England area down there as well. So big shout out. You all know who you are. Too many of you guys to name. A lot of fun testing, jamming like 50 plus games in the few days we were down there. Also, shout out to William, a fan of the channel. I met him down there. He recognized maybe my voice or maybe the name, and super cool guy, super sick dude, as well as a super sick tan V1 Spellground. I really enjoy talking to anyone. You guys are always welcome to come up to me at an event, and I always appreciate someone who appreciates the Spellgrounds, of course. You know, I'm a big Spellground guy myself, so big shout out to William. I know he's watching, and drop a comment below. Without further ado, we'll get into the deck. 3 Substitoad, 3 Swap Frog, 2 Treeborn, 2 Dupe. Just standard. I elected to play Frogs again based on comfortability. Just being able to be comfortable with your deck, I think, is the most important thing in Edison format, and I didn't have that much testing leading up to the event until the week prior, so I ran back my list from Nats, except a bunch of changes I made. One of the changes being Unifrog into the main board. Unifrog just really powerful, searchable frog. I sort of changed the way I play a lot with the frogs due to my friend Paul. He sort of taught me a lot of neat tricks you can do, and having Unitoad, as he calls it, in the deck is really powerful and gives you a lot of options, so I do like having him there. Then we have some tribute monsters or payoff monsters. I played more than the usual that most people do. Of course, 3 copies of Caius is staple. I elected to play 1 Ryza. Most people are just 3 Ryza, 3 Ryza and 3 Caius and 1 Ryza, or just 3 Caius itself. I like the Ryza as an additional way to just take tempo and keep tempo. I'm also playing 1 Junk Synchron. I wish I played more. Like, I had 2 at Nats, and I thought that too. It didn't felt like amazing, but here it just felt incredible. Every time I drew it, just Bryonic kill condition, just super strong, and being able to follow up like Bryonic into Miracle Fusion, just like really strong way to kill your opponent. Dark Dust Spirit. This card's actually the nuts. I'm never removing this card from any of my Frog decks, and I haven't since like 2010 or even before that. This card's just really strong. And there was actually a cool situation that came up in round 1 where I had to play around a Solemn Judgment or a Pull in the Rug in game 3, or I would have literally been dead to a lethal board. I elected to tribute set this card. On my turn, the Treeborn came back. I flipped this up. My opponent did have Solemn Judgment, negated the summon, then I was able to sack the Treeborn for Caius, presenting a lethal threat on that turn, which won me the game. So I like how this card lets you play in layers. It's very flexible, as well as just being super powerful at keeping you back in the game. There was one game I survived with Battle Fader, then killed 4 Lightsworn monsters with this card. Just really powerful card, and flexible, which I like about it the most. Heroes, we have Stratos, Evil Guy, and Ocean. No Alias. I just don't like that card. It's just straight up a brick. I just can't fathom like how many times I drew it leading up to Nats, and I was like, I just can't play this card in my deck. I know it's like pretty standard and people like it, and I know this is a bit greedy to only play 4 heroes in your 3 Miracle Fusion deck, but I have a few ways to balance that out in the spell cards. So I like this quite a bit. Evil Guy's really broken for searching a card to make your Soul Exchange live. Defensive hand traps, 2 Battle Fader, and then I elect to run the Tragodia over the 3rd Fader. I just like Trag. It's been really good for me, so I elected to keep it in, even though the 3 Battle Fader has sort of been coined the standard. This card just really wins games in the early games, really temples your opponent out with a Caius right next to it, like on turn 2, which is pretty much game over. Also can just take opposing Caiuses and opposing Armed Wings. Really strong card. And of course we have the 1 copy of Gores. Can't go anywhere without your Gores. Very strong card in this deck. Onto spells, 3 copies of Miracle Fusion. Nothing to explain here, just really powerful. Then we have the Rhoda as well as E-Call. I'm still playing E-Call. I just recognize that not playing Alias is greedy, so I do elect to play a dead E-Call, essentially. Sometimes this is dead, but we can hopefully discard it with a discard trap when that does arise. But it's so important to get to your heroes, so I do still play these as sort of a concession to the fact that I'm being greedy without the alias. Also playing 1 1 for 1, very powerful turn 1 card to search Substitute. I'm also electing to play 1 Gold Sark. I took this sort of idea from a player at Nats I lost to in round 1 of Nats before going on a little bit of a run. And this guy was really strong player, and he had 2 Gold Sarks, which I think is a little bit too much. But in the fact that like Gores and Battle Fader and Tragodia keep you alive makes this card very powerful. And there were so many things you could search. Like this could be a 4th copy of Miracle Fusion. This could be searching your Caius, which is a big payoff. This could be searching Rhoda to make your Miracle Fusion live. That's usually the thing that ended up happening for me since I have a lower hero count. A lot of times I'm searching for Rhoda, which can then search me a Stratos or a Junk Synchron if need be. So Gold Sark was excellent in testing. I drew it a couple times in the tournament, and it was good there as well. 1 Brain Control, 1 Soul Exchange. No Econ. Econ just felt kind of dead a lot in my deck, even with the additional tribute monsters. It's pretty standard to run like Econ or 2 along these 2 cards, but I felt like this was enough for me, and it worked out pretty well. I think Soul Exchange is just extremely powerful, especially going second, so I elected to include that in the main deck. And then we have Heavy Storm, MST. I didn't main the MST at Nats, which I was kind of convinced by my housemates down there that it was just incorrect, because I was always fine with the trade of Bottomless for Caius if I Caius their monster and they Bottomless is like a 2-for-1. However, I didn't really recognize that it's actually really important to have the Caius in play and make them deal with it. So being able to hit the Bottomless, the 1-set Bottomless, and then have the Caius actually be a threat is like super important, and that's one thing I was being a little greedy on, and that's it. MST was amazing. Just solid card. It kind of sounds weird, the reasoning and stuff like that, because MST is such a staple, but it was just a sort of a logic and sort of an idea I had at Nats. But MST was fine. I was fine without it, but I think it's better in the main, so I did end up maining it this time. And then on to traps, 3 copies of Regeki Break, just solid. I kind of wish I ran 2. I was sort of debating between like 2 and 3 discard traps. This event, it turns out some of the lists at top played 2, and my boy Paul, who was also on Frogs, also played 2. This card is sometimes dead, but I think I like the flexibility of it, and it's just a really powerful removal spell, so I do elect to play it at 3. Of course, wouldn't be an SSG deck profile without the 1 copy of Trap Dust Shoot. Drew it a few times in the tournament, but you just have to get it in there, because if you open it, you're just better than your opponent. No questions asked, just it's a skill issue for them, and you're better, so Trap Dust Shoot in the deck. Then on to the extra deck. Quick rundown, nothing too crazy here. We have 3 Absolute Zeros, of course, and the 1 Gaia. Almost didn't play Gaia, but ended up doing it last minute. I have Dark Dust Spirit that I can infuse with as well for an Earth. We have Armor Yarm, Catastor, Junk Warrior. Didn't come up, but this is an addition I made after Nats. Card's really good. Came up in testing a few times. We have Magical Android, Bryonic, Nuts. Won me so many games. We have Goyo Guardian as well as Flame of Rayquaza. Didn't come up, but in testing it does. Play around Gores by piercing Treeborn Frog in the mirror. Really strong card. We have the Black Rose, which did come up, as well as Stardust Dragon and Colossal Fighter and Mistworm. So pretty standard extra deck there. Nothing too crazy. Into the sideboard now. 3 copies of Vanity's Fiend. This card is just extremely powerful in this deck. Like, being able to normal summon 24 your opponent can't special is just too strong to not play 3 of. Some people play 2, but nah, like all 3 is just kind of nuts. 2 copies of Snowman. This card has been unbelievable, like in testing and in the tournament, just unbelievable, just killing so many things, like so many problematic cards, like the dragon, like random like floating dragons like Mass Dragon and Quackimero Drago, kills like Red MD, kills like Blackwing cards in that matchup in the slower grindy games, kills Absolute Zero when it's already in the play and you need to answer 1-for-1's that card. Really strong card. Second copy of Dark Dust. This was sort of my plan to out the sort of aggro combo decks of the format. Things like Diva Hero as well as things like Lightsworn. Just being able to have a payoff once you do survive with Battle Fader is really important to me. And having the second Dark Dust was really strong. Dark Dust has just been amazing. And I played the same split. I've actually played 2 on my side at Nats, and I played the Ryza in the main, the second Ryza over the Dark Dust in the main, but I elected to make more of a sideboard room, and Dark Dust 1-in-1 split was definitely a lot better and did a lot of work in pre-board and post-board games. One card that was nuts for me, I think it was shout out to Sam for showing me this tech, Jinzo. Yeah, like Jinzo's a card I've played back in the day in Frog Monarch decks, but it was unbelievable here for me. The most notable was in round 2 or 3 against like a value opponent where they had like a very early like Armed Wing plus Vanity's Fiend, and I was able to Soul Exchange the Vanity's Fiend, drop Jinzo into play, make 2 back rows dead, attack over the Armed Master, and the Armed Wing, and then they also had like a dead Gorz in hand. This card was just like straight up win the game on the spot, and when you can Soul Exchange this card into play when your opponent has 2-3 back rows, like it's actually just game winning. So shout out to Sam for giving me this idea. It was unbelievable with Soul Exchange and just won me quite a few games. We then have 2 copies of Soul Exchange here in the main. I wanted 3 post board. I just wanted the outs. I have a bunch of tributes in my deck, more than the average person, so I elected that 3 Soul Exchange post board would be where I wanted to be, especially going second. But even on the play, I would want 2 copies post board, which is normally the spread that I had. Then we have 2 copies of Super Poly. This card was nuts in testing. It's just a nuts card. Unfortunately, didn't play the matchups that I really wanted, so only 2 Super Poly cards, just solid. It's going to win you hero matchups. Also, 1 copy of Soul Taker. Last minute wanted some sort of removal spell, and this card is just the best one. I just wanted something that requires... This is like one of the only cards that requires like a 1 card out to the specific thing you want. And when Vanity's Fiends and Fossils are running around, like, you know, like if you have Smashing here, Sam also mentioned this to me, that sometimes they have a bigger monster and that Smashing actually isn't an out. So Soul Taker it is. If they have like Fossil and some other beater, you just Soul Taker the Fossil, then you can play again. And it's a 1 card out, unlike Soul Exchange where you need a combination of 2 cards to out the 1 problem. Soul Taker is just really strong at being a 1-for-1 and doing the thing. Honestly, it was really good. I didn't draw it enough as I wanted. I would consider switching around the sideboard and maybe playing 2 next time. 2 copies of Dust. Just wanted the extra backer removal for cards like Oppression and cards like Mask of Restrict. But one thing I learned, Mask of Restrict just not that great against this deck. So many times I popped out Unifrog. And Pulling the Rug was the card I was more afraid of. Last card, Compulse. Compulse was pretty good. I think like there were some matchups I didn't really want it, but it's so flexible and so powerful against Value Turbo that I think it's really good and worth it. Compulse just one of the last cards to make the sideboard. I think I also had one at Nats, just flexible card that just does a lot of work and can come in a wide variety of situations. But that's about it, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck in the comments section below. I did pretty good. I mean, I did okay at Nats. I think at RBET Orlando, I think I got like 4 wins. Ended up like 4-3, and then I dropped. Not too bad. Honestly, one thing I did ignore was Dragons, and I ended up playing Dragons 3 times, unfortunately. So pretty unlucky there, but I think it just happens sometimes. When you can't just ignore a matchup. I think I tried to be a little greedy in my deck building because it felt so hard to beat Dragons that I just kind of gave up on the prospect and said, hey, I'm going to ignore the matchup and hopefully I don't play it. But I was getting Quacky Dragoed like left and right. I lost to literally 3 Dragon matchups. Those were my 3 losses that knocked me out. So next time I will consider Dragons more as a threat, as is a real deck. But that is about it, guys. So without further ado, this is Dan V from SSG signing out.